Hi, welcome to the Everlearner's Top 10 Tips for French GCSE. Before we get started and look at the tips themselves and about the language in the paper and some of the question styles, let's give a few key things that might be really helpful to you before you get started with those exam papers. So for example, answer every single question on the exam paper. Even if you don't really know, make an educated guess. Use common sense, okay? Don't leave any blanks in there, okay? Use highlighters, underline words, okay? The question paper is yours, okay? You can make notes anywhere that you like, as long as it's not writing in the actual answer box that you need to use or in the sort of the barcodes that you'll find on there, because they need those when they mark them, okay? As I said earlier, make sure you use your common sense for answering things that you don't know. If the question's in French, answer in French. And if it's English, answer in English. And don't worry, sometimes your answers might be A, B, C, D. It may well be A, B, C, D. If you think you're right, stick with it. In terms of the listening exam, there's a few helpful little things to point out for you. So get familiar with the beeps and the patterns of the beeps and know whether you've heard it for the first time or if it's the second time you're hearing it. Pay attention to how much of the question you're going to hear. Are you hearing all of question one? Are you hearing question one part A? Are you hearing question one part A part one? Okay, make sure you know what you're listening out for. And use the time before the recording starts. You know that sort of almost awkward pause when you think, is the question even about to start? Use that time to be thinking about the question, the sort of language you're going to be expecting to hear. And finally, as I said earlier, scribble notes everywhere you want. Vocabulary, sides of the paper, next to the question. Okay, use your paper, it's yours, own it. So now let's watch this 10 top tips. You must make sure then that you read the whole question before you either read the text or listen to the extract. So look at this question here, for example. Reading the whole question involves me reading the heading and the subheading. Now I know it's tempting just to kind of skip past those, but actually they tell us quite a lot. Before even reading this, even if I don't speak a word of French, I know this is about a holiday. I know it's in the Seychelles. I know what sort of text it's about. I know the type of text. It's an email from someone called Ludovic, which if I've studied French I'll know as a boy. And that I need to answer, very importantly, in English. Yeah. So before I've even read the text or read the question as such, just from reading the heading and the subheading, I know an awful lot of information about what I'm about to read. And that really helps prepare you, especially in the listening if you're feeling a bit nervous. Okay. Then if I go on down and actually read my options, I'll find out even more about this. So I know that obviously it's a holiday. Ludovic's gone on holiday somewhere and with someone. Perhaps it's his parents, perhaps it's to the coast. We will find out. And that if you look at options B, C, D, E, and F, it got lost, the coach broke down, somebody ran the police arrested the coach driver, everyone had to make their own way home, or even G, the company refunded the money. Something bad has happened, hasn't it? It perhaps wasn't the best holiday to the Seychelles. And so something's happened here, and something negative to look out for. And of course, the last one that it made a complaint. So clearly something happened. It's going to be the ins and outs, the fine detail of what exactly happened. But we found out a lot of information there before we even read a word of French, haven't we? Which is always helpful. Another sort of question to be aware of in terms of making sure you read the question carefully is this one here. So we've got, what do we know about Annabelle's character? Okay, and obviously this would normally have a heading and subheading with it. But what do you know about Annabelle's character? Well, if you look in the text, Annabelle était une jeune fille sérieuse et timide. Okay, so the only bit I've highlighted for you. So this tells us she's a young girl and that she's serious and shy. Now imagine this is a 1 mark question. Which of those are we going to choose to answer what do you know about Annabelle's character? Well, there's one you definitely can't use. You cannot say that she's a young girl in response to this question. Okay, you would not get a mark because that's not answering the question. It's asking us about her character. Describing her as a young girl doesn't describe her character. So we would need to say she was either shy or serious. One of those would be fine. So read the question. What exactly are they asking you to do? Knowing your question words is key to understanding those questions in the section of the exam that's purely in French. Remember, of course, your exam is split into questions you have to answer in English and questions you have to answer in French. So look, for example, these questions here. They're all about milk. Don't know why, but, le lait, milk. I was feeling inspired by, dairy products at the time. So, qui a bu le lait is your first one. We're looking for a person, aren't we? We're being asked who drank the milk. So maybe you might have a person's name, or it might be mon frère, my brother, something like that. Pourquoi a-t-il bu le lait? Why did he drink the milk? So we're looking for a reason, aren't we? Quand est-ce qu'il a bu le lait? When? Looking for a time phrase. Yesterday, this morning, Monday. Où est le lait? Where is the milk? So looking for a place, maybe in the fridge. That makes most sense, but you never know. Combien de litres de lait a-t-il bu? How many litres did he drink? Combien de, how many? Okay, really, obviously in that instance, you'll be looking for a number, wouldn't you? So really importantly, do spend time going over your numbers as well. Don't want to drop marks on something really basic like your numbers. Que pense-t-il des produits laitiers? Ooh, we've diverged away from milk, gone to dairy products. But what does he think about them? So we're looking for an opinion there, aren't we? Que pense-t-il? Be careful not to confuse it with qui, meaning who. And the last two, comment était le lait? What was it like? What was the milk like? So we're looking for an adjective there to describe it, aren't we? And comment here with this other meaning how. So how did he find the milk? Did he find it by stumbling across it in the fridge or something? So again, looking for a reason. So do spend some time going over these, because you need to know what they're asking you in order to be able to get the right answer. Very, very often your exam will use negatives to try and catch you out a bit. So it's vital that you spend time going over these. You need to know your ne pas, your not, your ne jamais, your never, your ne plus, not anymore, your ne personne, nobody, your ne rien, nothing, ne aucun, so none or aucun de aucune. Your ne, ni, great fun to say. Neither nor. Okay, and of course your ne que, meaning only. Really key that one there. Ne que, only. Also worth knowing things as sauf, meaning except, and par contre, meaning however often used to express something negative. About to come up. Okay, so let's look at a couple of examples. We might have something like this one here, where we're being asked about what Florence tells us about the food she eats. The bit we're going to be focusing on is highlighted here, ready for you. And we can see it says, Moi, je n'aime pas beaucoup la viande. Je ne mange que de l'agneau. So what's she telling us? Je ne mange pas. I've got two lots of negatives here. Ne pas, so she doesn't like meat. And our other negative here, je ne mange que. She only eats an agneau, being lamb. So she only eats lamb. So for my 2 marks here, I'd need to say she doesn't like meat and she only eats lamb. But really important, we have to know this ne que means to be able to establish that she only eats lamb, and not to perhaps be confused and think that she doesn't eat it. Okay, another example of a question is this one here. So if you scroll on down, we've got again my sentence highlighted that we're going to focus on. And my question we need to answer is, what does Emmanuel tell us about the party? We've got, it was fun, he met his friends there, or he didn't know anyone. So if we go look at the sentence, we've got, hier je suis allée à une fête, mais je ne me suis pas particulièrement amusée, car je ne connaissais personne. Okay, so we've got 2 lots of negatives. Je ne me suis pas particulièrement amusée car je connaissais personne. So he didn't really have fun. Didn't particularly have fun. Oops, help I could spell really in English. There's meant to be an extra L in there. But I guess stick it in there. And je ne connaissais personne. He knew nobody. He didn't know anyone. So my options then, it was fun. We said it wasn't. So we know my negatives ruled that one out. Yeah. He met his friends there. Well, he says he doesn't know anyone, so we're going to assume that's not true. And he didn't know anyone, therefore, is going to be my correct answer. So know your negatives, guys. very often, unfortunately, in the higher paper, you won't find the exact word you're looking for. So for imagine, for a second, that you're looking out or listening out for someone talking about a carrot, yeah, then I'm afraid it won't just be described as a carrot. If you think back, maybe if you remember a few years back of that M&S advert, yeah, then they described things in the most convoluted way ever. It's not just any carrot. It's a juicy, orange, root vegetable that can be eaten raw or cooked. And from that, you'd have to deduce they're talking about a carrot. Okay, so that's the idea behind it. And you will have to do something similar in the exam. Now, a really good way to actually prepare for this is to play a game called Taboo, and you might actually enjoy it. I mean, if you can enjoy revision, maybe that's a push, but you can do it with somebody else. And the game Taboo is the idea that you have to describe a word without using the actual name of that item. So, for example, if I want to describe, I don't know, a flood, I'd have to talk about water, breaking banks, that sort of stuff, without actually using the word flood or flooding or anything related to flood. Okay, so in order to do that, you're going to have to know a few key words in French. You're going to have to know how to say people, so les gens, or les personnes. You're going to need how to say a thing, so une chose, or something, quelque chose. A place, un endroit. A feeling, un sentiment. A job, un travail ou un boulot. That's a V, by the way. If you watch any of my other tutorials, you know I cannot do V's and U's, they look identical. A situation, une situation. Type of food, un genre d'aliment. And the final one that's very useful is ce que, that which, that. Okay, so using those, you can then try and find any piece of vocabulary really that's on your spec and see if you can try and describe it. Okay, now it comes in handy then when you come to do either a reading or listening exam. So we're going to look at a reading question here. So can we see it's all in target language, it's all in French, and we've got to decide from this text, Lucille aide, so Lucille helps, so aider, to help. And is she helping les enfants, les SDF, les personnes âgées? Well, let's think for a moment. How else might they talk about children? What other words could be used for children? Young people. Les jeunes, boys, garçons, girls, filles. I suppose they might even cover les adolescents, teenagers, or les ados. Maybe it can be shortened too. Les SDF, remember SDF stands for sans domicile fixe. Yeah, without permanent, like, home, basically. So homeless. So also they can be called les sans-abri. Really key terminology here. If you didn't know any of these, do spend some time going over them. Okay, you could have les gens, remember the word from earlier, people qui vivent dans la rue, people who live on the streets, or les personnes ou les gens qui n'ont pas de maison, people who don't have a house. So all those are ways of talking about people who are homeless, aren't they? And we're thinking about. And the last one, les personnes âgées, so the elderly. We might hear vieux, or see vieux ou vieille, so old. We might have personnes du troisième âge, third age, remember? Used to refer, or just âgé. Okay, so let's go back to our text now, the bit we need. Pour moi, c'est vraiment important d'aider les gens qui vivent dans la rue. Well, here we go. Les gens qui vivent dans la rue, which we know is les S. The F, another way of expressing it. Usually in the reading and listening papers, the answer to a question may not be given by the word that you'd perhaps expect, but one that's loosely associated with it. So, for example, this question here is a listening question, and you're going to have to be listening out to Clément, who's going to be talking about sports, and you've got to decide which ones he prefers. Yeah, Clément préfère. We've got options: sport extrême, sport d'hiver, and sport nautique. Now, it's highly unlikely that you'll hear Clément just simply say, je préfère les sports extrêmes, is it? Okay, you're going to have to do a bit of deduction. So it's worth spending some time thinking about what sort of things might be mentioned, what sort of word families What sort of words, sorry, sit into the family of les sports extrêmes. So you might be thinking things like la parapente, paragliding, l'escalade, climbing, l'alpinisme. Yeah. So more extreme sports. Sport d'hiver, ski, surf des neiges or snowboard. And sport nautique, remember nautical meaning water, so it's la natation. Of course, you might hear the verb nager. La voile, sailing, la plongée sous-marine, scuba diving. Le canoë-kayak. Now, canoë-kayak, I know if you hear it, it sounds quite tricky, doesn't it? This is a good example of when writing down what you think you hear might help you out. Okay, because when you see it written down, it's quite obvious. Yeah, so you might hear Clément actually saying, oh, moi, j'aime bien l'escalade. And you'll go, extreme sport. Okay, so that's an example of when knowing your word families is really important. It's also a good way to help you revise key vocabulary. So say, for example, this is something I really recommend. Start off with a word. So I'm going to go with vêtements, clothes. And we're going to think of things related to that. Let's split it in two. We can have vêtements élégants, so smart clothes. So have vêtements confortables. And we're going to think of all the words that kind of fit in this family. Élégant, we could also have chic, couldn't we? Smart. And often then, what clothes might be smart? Une robe, a dress. Or une cravate, a tie. Un costume is a suit. Yeah. Confortable, we might have, what could we have? Un jean. Un survêtement, a tracksuit. And then we could come off from that again, couldn't we? Say, une cravate just talks, maybe goes to uniform. Or uniform scolaire. And off there we could have all the different things you wear for schools. Chaussures, chemise, etc. Okay, and you can keep going because these things, you just keep building them up. Off uniform, you could then start talking about other aspects of school, etc., etc. Okay, so it's a good way to go over lots of vocabularies to build up these sort of word families, starting with any word that you choose and just sort of see how big you can get it, linking all the words that you sort of know. And if you're revising, don't be afraid to look things up that you're not sure of. In the higher paper, you will find many distractors, especially in your multiple choice questions. Okay, so as a rule of thumb, if a possible answer seems to appear exactly in the same way you've sort of been given it in the text or audio, double check. Okay, sometimes it might well be the correct answer, but if it seems far too straightforward, too simple, then it's probably not quite as it seems. Okay, let's look at a question, for example. So this one here, this is a reading, but it could easily be a listening, and we've got to decide the person speaking whether they like to go skiing, climbing, mountaineering or snowboarding. So if we look at the sentence here, we've got j'habite à la montagne où on peut faire de l'escalade, du ski ou même de l'alpinisme, mais c'est le surf des neiges qui m'intéresse. That should be a comma. Let's put a comma there. So you can see he mentions skiing, yeah. He mentions climbing, he mentions mountaineering, and he mentions snowboarding. Yeah? So you've got to work out, actually, which one of those he actually likes to do, which one he likes to go and do. So the key thing here is qui m'intéresse. So I'm interested in surf des neiges, so he likes to go snowboarding, whereas the others, l'escalade, le ski, l'alpinisme, are things that you can do where he lives in the mountain. Okay, so the correct answer in these sorts of instances tends to be things like synonyms. So watch out for synonyms, descriptions, negatives, associated words, all those sorts of things. Okay, so just watch out for them. If it looks really easy, double check, probably isn't. things like your time phrases or frequency expressions. It's not only helpful in terms of identifying if something's perhaps referring to past, present or future, but it can also help you with that precision that you're going to need in some answers. So for example, hardly ever is not the same as never, is it? Okay, so it's really important that we know those. So things, for example, let's start with toujours, or tout le temps, all the time, or always, souvent, often, d'habitude, or normalement, usually or normally, de temps en temps, from time to time, or quelquefois, sometimes, or parfois, sometimes as well, down to rarement, rarely, quasiment jamais, almost never, presque jamais, almost never, jamais, being never, and things like ne plus, not anymore. Okay, so all of those are really key to know to be able to express how often something's happened. Also worth knowing such things as il y a, and then can be jour, semaine, mois, an, or année, if meaning ago. So you'd have a number. Il y a 4 jours, 4 days ago, to tell you when something happened. Also worth going back over such things as depuis, since, pendant, for, how long. Okay, so if you're not sure of those, do go back over them. Yeah, let's look at a quick question then. So the sort of thing, you might come across in the exam, it gets better, it's in the right place now, is this one here. So you've got some text in French and you've got 2 questions. How often does she win sporting competitions, and when does she usually ski? So how often does she win sporting competitions? So let's go here. Compétition, and that's going to be our competitions. Bien que je fasse beaucoup de sport, je n'ai presque jamais gagné de sport. So presque jamais is almost never. Okay, so my answer, how often? Almost never. I cannot write never. I wouldn't be given the marks. That's not what it's saying. It's not saying she's never won anything, but she almost never wins anything. Okay, and then when does she usually ski? Well, d'habitude, je fais du ski chaque hiver. And here, the chaque hiver is my key bit. It's telling me when she's doing it. Each or every winter. And when does she usually ski? If I just put winter, again, I wouldn't be allocated the mark. You've got to be precise. What does it say exactly? It says she goes skiing every winter, usually. Okay, so be precise. Spend time going over these frequency or time expressions. Make sure you know them and make sure you translate them really, really accurately in the exam. Make sure you can identify verb endings and know whether those verb endings are expressing present, past or future ideas. Okay, this will help you obviously not just in your writing and speaking, but in the reading and listening, as there may well be questions that specifically ask you to identify when things happened, but also in translation, obviously, there will be always be something in the present, the past and in the future tenses, so you need to be able to form those. So let's have a quick recap then of how we form our past tenses. Remember, you've got 2 different past tenses. So the passé composé, made up of your auxiliary, so avoir or être, so j'ai mangé or je suis allé, with an extra e because I'm female, and then your past participle, ending e, I or u, depending on what verb you've got. So j'ai mangé, I ate, je suis allé, I went. You've also got your imperfect, so I used to eat, je mangeais. Okay, et, there is a difference, yeah? And c'était, for example, it was. Compare that to your present tense when we've got je mange, or je vais, I go, or c'est, it is. And then your future, now your future tense will always involve some element of the infinitive. So for example, we've got je vais manger, I'm going to eat, and you've got your infinitive here, manger. You've got je mangerai, I will eat. And can we see that although we've got an ending here, we have got our verb in the infinitive with the ending added on. And then our conditional, I would eat, je mangerai. I know it's very similar to the future. Obviously a slight spelling change. Remember, these endings for future are the same as the imperfect endings. But it's pronunciation-wise, it's je mangerai, I will eat, je mangerai, I would eat. Okay, and then again, our infinitive in there. So they're there in terms of just a quick recap of how we form them. Okay, and obviously you will need to be able to form them in different people, not just the I form in the higher paper. In terms of reading and listening, there will usually be some sort of time phrase or expression to help guide you as to what the tense is that's being used, other than you just having to rely on being able to spot the verbs. So things, for example, like l'année dernière, last year, or you might see la semaine dernière for last week, hier, yesterday, avant-hier, the day before yesterday, autrefois, like in the past or like long ago, avant, before, récemment, recently, and a really useful one is il y a plus a number plus and then a time, mois, jour, semaine, etc. And the il y a means ago. So il y a 3 mois, 3 months ago. In terms of present, you're going to have things like now, maintenant, today, aujourd'hui, usually, d'habitude. You might have normalement. Okay, those sorts of things. You might have things like tous les jours, every day. I forgot to put in the past ones here, a couple of useful ones. When I was little, so quand j'étais petit or quand j'étais jeune. Always useful as well. And then in terms of future, it's going to be things like tomorrow, isn't it? So demain, the day after tomorrow, lendemain. You might have next year, so l'année prochaine, or la semaine prochaine for next week. You might have après, after, à l'avenir, in the future. And the little one I'm going to put separately down here, so this little phrase après avoir, it's worth knowing. Après avoir meaning after having done something. So you might say après avoir mangé, je vais sortir. After having eaten, I'm going to go out. Yes, obviously it's here referring to future tense. Okay, so that's a quick recap for you. Let's have a question in action then. So here we've got a question. Oops, wrong place. Let's move it down. All about technology. And we've got to identify Leo's views on technology and how they've changed. So we've got to write P for something that's in the past, N for something that's happening now, so in the present, and F for something that's happening in the future. So normally, obviously, you'd spend some time reading through this. So if you want to quickly pause the video and have a read through it, we're going to just go straight to the questions. So more time spent outside and less time spent on the internet. Okay, so internet, thinking internet, en ligne, and you can see here, this section here, je vais essayer cet été de réduire le temps que je passe en ligne et je vais passer plus de temps dehors avec mes amis. Okay, so that's the second tense that we're looking for. Let's try and spot the tenses. We've got our verbs here. Je vais essayer, je vais passer. Okay, and from what I said above, we've got an infinitive in, so they're going to be future. Okay, but if you weren't sure about that, let's see if there's a time phrase in there to guide us. And there's cet été, this summer. This implies future, doesn't it? So you can use that to double check. Next one, using technology to help with homework. We know homework is devoir. Can we spot devoir anywhere in the text? See it up here. Devoir. Okay, and it says j'utilise la technologie tous les jours, non seulement pour faire mes devoirs, mais aussi pour rester en contact avec mes amis. And our verbs then are j'utilise la technologie, which you might be able to spot is present tense, so it's going to be a now. But if you weren't sure, you could always find the time phrase tous les jours to guide you, meaning every day. So something that's happening now on a regular basis. The last one then you might guess is future. don't get in your exam, double check, because they may well put 2 past and 1 present. They may well put 3 past. Okay, always check. And it says we're looking for phoning friends. So phoning friends is something about téléphoner, an ami. So here we go. Je devais téléphoner à mes amis. Your verb then, you might spot je devais is imperfect, so that's past. Okay. However, let's see if there's a time phrase in there to guide us. And it says here, il y a 3 ans. So 3 years ago. So definitely past tense. Conveying some of those finer details really is important. So if, for example, the audio or the text says such things as très, very, or trop, too much, or beaucoup, a lot, or pas, or ne pas, not, or a little bit, un peu, then you must make sure you include those in the answers. Otherwise, the chances are you're going to miss out on that mark, even though, annoyingly, you have actually understood the general gist of the text. Okay, so be precise in your answers. Let's take a look, for example, this question here. We've got what advice is given to children? And the bit we need to focus on then is here. Un petit conseil pour les enfants. Ne mangez pas trop d'aliments sucrés. Now you might be focusing on this here. Ne mangez pas trop d'aliments sucrés. So you've got your sugary foods. And ne mangez pas, so don't eat. So you might think, well, I'm just going to write, don't eat sugary foods or don't eat sweet foods. Yeah, but the key thing here is this trop. Yeah, too many or too much. Yeah, so what advice is given to children? We need to put don't eat too much or too many sugary foods. If I just put don't eat sugary foods, I would not get the mark. Okay, be precise. Include those quantifiers if they've got them in there. So there will be questions in the reading paper where you have to answer in French as such. And although, just like this one here, although you can lift words directly from the text, you do not need to rephrase things in your own words. You've got to be careful about lifting too much, okay? Although it might be very tempting to, to think, oh, it somehow relates to this paragraph. I'm just going to write the whole thing down and fingers crossed the right thing's in there somewhere and I'll get the mark. Unfortunately, that doesn't work, okay? You've got to show that you've understood it enough to pick out the right bit, okay? Otherwise you won't get the mark. So if you look at this one here, I've got, you would be told normally that it's about energy. Okay, so we've got here, si on utilise des énergies propres, and we've got the section that we need is ready here for you. So we need to find something similar to si on utilise des énergies propres. It probably won't be exactly the same with the text. So let's have a look. I've got si on utilise des énergies renouvelables. So énergie propre are clean energies, and énergie renouvelable are renewable energies. So kind of mean more or less the same thing. So si on utilise, so if we use clean energies, something, something, something. Okay, so what's it say here? Well, it might be tempting to think, well, this is in here, I'm going to stick this part of the sentence. Okay, so il faut vraiment penser à notre planète et savoir que tout le monde peut aider car il y aura moins de pollution si on utilise des énergies renouvelables. Okay, if I asked us to copy from il faut, si on utilise des énergies propres, il faut vraiment penser, that would be incorrect. Okay, so if we use clean energies, then what? Okay, so we're looking for this little bit here. Il y aura moins de pollution. So, si on utilise des énergies propres, il y aura moins de pollution. If we use clean energies, there will be less pollution. Okay, I suppose the rest of this, which means we have to really think about our planet and know that everyone can help, because there will be less pollution if we all use renewable energies. Okay, so be careful of lifts. Don't lift too much. Little, not too much. That's it, folks. I hope you found it useful. Good luck. Bonne chance.